Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hacking with Friends. Today we are slightly pre-recorded, but in Los Angeles for the first time in a year, and I have my friend Nick here, who was a previous co-host who's come back again from his big-time gig with Hack5 to join us today and go through the InfoSec news.
Yes.
Nick, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Well, I've actually been in Los Angeles this whole year, but yeah.
Yeah,
Nice to have you back.
Yeah, it's nice to see the studio again after being in another state for so long. It's really weird to be in a place that's so hot. And also, if any of you are interested, we also have a special co-host today, Fernando, and he is available if you guys end up having a crush on him at Glendale Small Animal Hospital, and he's the best cat I've seen in a long time.
Is this the first one of these live streams with 3 hosts?
Yeah, I did. I think this is the first live stream with 3 hosts. So say thank you to Fernando for taking his time out of doing cat stuff all day to be absolutely adorable for us. So yeah. Anyway, so we are here after basically things finally started to open up again, and it looks like hacker conferences are going to be a thing. We already know that DEF CON is going to be hybrid. So at some points, there's going to be speakers who are fully remote if they're not comfortable yet, and at some point, there's also going to be people that are actually there that are maybe speaking to a reduced audience. So we haven't really decided what we're going to do yet. It's a little bit weird because we're all vaccinated now, and it's been a slow process of getting to know how to talk to people and deal with all the things that come with going out again. But Nick, do you think you're going to be going to hacking conferences anytime soon?
Yeah, I was so excited because last year I was finally going to have the money and the time to be able to go to DEF CON. And then obviously the pandemic happened. I've been to RSA before, and I think this year is going to be a little bit of putting our toes back in the water, and all the conferences are going to be a little weird. But hopefully next year things will be full swing. I'm going to try to go this year, but if not, definitely next year, to DEF CON at least.
Yeah, I think we're leaning towards maybe going to DEF CON, getting a hotel, and scheduling interviews with people for Hack5 shows we're going to be doing in the future. But it's still going to be kind of a weird return to normality after getting used to doing everything remotely, presenting remotely, and otherwise just having everything not require being in person anymore. So I found out that I'm airsick when I travel. That was something I totally forgot about for a year. I also found out that I'm not really good at small talk anymore. Because most of the times that I've been talking to people, you're just trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. So yeah, it's been a really weird experience. And I'm sure you guys are going through something similar depending on where you are, although apparently not Germany, because my friend Stefan has mentioned that things are virtually still the same in lockdown there. But yeah, it's a kind of an interesting period, and I'm excited to see what happens in local hackerspaces as well. We're going to try to check in with our local hackerspace Null Space Labs while we're here and see what they're up to, because it's been a year since we've actually been able to congregate in these creative spaces and see each other. So just Nick and I haven't seen each other in a year in person. This is a really, a nice moment of having gotten through at least the current worst part of everything and getting to a point where we can see each other again. So we've waited a long time for this. It's really nice to have it, and hopefully you guys are having some reunions, or soon we'll have some reunions and be able to see other hackers and friends and stuff too. So I don't know about the C3 conference. I don't know if it's been announced, whether it's going to be virtual or not, but that was another thing I was really looking forward to, going back to Germany and getting to see my friends there. So if it ends up not being virtual and the numbers look good, then I might consider going to Germany, although I might limit my my actual attendance. But I'm looking forward to getting to meet some people again and actually being able to feature some experts that we meet at conferences that are just amazing and maybe a little bit hard to pin down sometimes if they're really, really busy. So
yeah, I mean Zoom and everything has been a nice patchwork, but really just seeing you for the first time in over a year, it's being in person together is so much different and so much better experience, and I'm excited for everyone to have those experiences sooner rather than later, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, Fernando, what was that? It's time for us to get to the InfoSec news. Thank you so much, co-host. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get over to some of the things I want to cover today, and we kind of have a variety. Let's see. Oh, we switched over to my screen. So last week, or maybe the week before, we were doing a demo on Michael's laptop, and we found web miner pool as one of the DNS queries that was being received. Do you know what that is?
No.
So this is a web miner that would use someone else's browser to mine cryptocurrency.
Oh, like wait, it just like users browsers resources to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were
Wow.
like, why is this here? Because this was just like, this is in our primary laptop. It's like a backup laptop that Michael uses. But apparently at some point, Michael perhaps maybe like joined the wrong, like went to the wrong website or something, and he got a crypto miner in the browser. So we don't totally know what happened yet, but it was interesting because we found this out through DNS queries. We were doing a demonstration on intercepting and analyzing DNS queries, and this just popped up. So how would you actually kind of figure this out if you wanted to do it yourself, if you don't want to follow like the whole Wireshark tutorial I was showing, which honestly is pretty extensive? Well, there was actually a tool that I found that I like, and let me see if I can find it. I wasn't going to do this one first, but since we landed on that screen, I will do it. And I don't always run these tools. Here we go. It's called DNS Peep. Don't you think that's quaint? So if you were intrigued by how you can find different things that might be requesting a suspicious URL and identify something like, the ability to track down like a web miner, I'll close that. Then here, I have this actually running right now. So here you can see this is DNS Peep. I have tested this out. It seems to work pretty well. And I was able to identify, a couple different things that were going out from different applications. You can see it will actually tell you and resolve the address that it's requesting as well. So I can see that right before I closed it, Signal was sending something out to whispersystems.org.
Really cool. I like this. This reminds me of like when I first set up a Raspberry Pi in my house, and like all I was doing all day was just like looking at like all the requests that different devices were making.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see that Adobe is super vocal. I can see, which honestly, Adobe is like the most vocal of like all this stuff. It's just like setting up tons and tons of stuff. But it helps you identify if anything's running in the background that might be sketchy, you might not want running. And if there's any program that like matches up to like cryptominer.com, then like perhaps it's worth tracking that down and finding out if maybe we need to reinstall the browser or something. It's just a way for you to diagnose what's running on your computer, what is sending requests out. And a lot of like these exfiltration attacks also like might be sending out information over DNS. So if you just see a bunch of really random subdomains on something that's like a known malicious domain, that would be a really bad sign. That would mean someone was either establishing a command and control server with a malicious server or exfiltrating data. So this is just one way that you can start taking a look at those requests and just identifying anything that might raise a red flag. And of course, like if you get a URL or something that like seems suspicious, like what's this like this looks like a obscene URL, or is this actually Adobe? I can just copy this and just go to like VirusTotal or something, and it'll.
That in a little bit?
Huh?
Can you zoom that in a little bit?
Oh, I sure can. There we go.
Sweet.
So here we can see like, okay, like I don't know, this is a .io. Like, is that Adobe? Is that really Adobe? Is this something sketchy? So like if I want to go over here, I can make a incognitus window. And then I can just drop this. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to go to it directly. I can go to VirusTotal.
Yes.
And I can just drop it in, like this, and just like see. And if anybody else in the stream has a particular URL parser that they use for like unrolling these URLs and like finding out what's up with them, here we go. So we can see 163 other people have thought this was suspicious. We can see what it contains, which is like text. It just generally allows us to like unpack this and see that, okay, like nothing's flagging this as malicious. We can also see if it redirects to somewhere. So if this is a link that redirects 3 or 4 times, this will help us follow it and see like where it actually goes. But here we can see that nobody says that this is malicious. And I'm sure if I like modified it slightly, I would get some like phishing site instead, and it would be like, no, don't go to that.
Like using a 0 instead of an O.
No, like adobo.com.
Yeah.
Or adobo.io. It's going to be like just things that are like preying on common misspelling. So anyway, that's just one of the tools I wanted to shout out today. I usually don't test these tools before I mention them, and I kind of use that as a disclaimer, but I actually thought this was so cool, and the instructions were so clear that I thought, hey, this is actually worth checking out. So if you want to check it out, I will go back to the GitHub here. You can see it's just github.com/jvns/DNSpeep. This tool is cool. It also has some really easy installation options. You can compile it and run it, or you can just get the binary and run it on, I'm running it on Mac OS, but you can see it's compiled for also Linux. If you're running Windows, then I guess you just got to compile it. But either way, very interesting tool and very easy to make your traffic a little bit more visual and detect things like, crypto miners. All right, Nick, You got something?
Yeah, so we were talking earlier today. There was a nice Twitter thread that you retweeted. So let me go ahead and open that up. We can go to my screen. But it was basically about how it's just another way that companies are using all their data and power to try to find out things that we want to buy, but in a very creepy way. So yeah, Cody retweeted this earlier.
It was a really good thread.
Yeah, and it's just like I like it because it breaks down like something people think is a lot more sinister, but it's a lot more boring and a lot more analytical than we like to think.
Well, it's almost more insidious in some ways because, like, so this is the scenario we're talking about. Like, let's say that, like, you're with your aunt or something, and she's just like, oh, my phone's listening to me again. We just talked about these pretzels you love, and all of a sudden I'm seeing them on my timeline. They must be listening to me. And you're just like, okay, yes, sure, Susan, they're listening to you. But, like, really, like, how did that happen? Like, how did something that you were talking about or something you enjoy or something you do end up on someone's timeline or someone's, or basically being advertised as someone that you're just spending time with? Nick, how would that happen? So, are they actually listening to you?
No, they're not actually, because like
they're
audio...
They're watching your lips through the camera then, right?
No, of course, like that's way too hard to parse. It's inexact. All the data's fuzzy.
Okay, wait, so they're measuring the vibration of the glass to be able to listen to you, right?
The technology is almost there, but not yet.
Okay.
But still, that's too expensive to parse. That would take up too much data, and they just wouldn't be able to store as much. But instead, they'll understand like what your grandma or your aunt is interested in based on like the stuff she buys and the reward programs she uses. So like if she goes to Vaughn's and uses your phone number to buy the same brand of toothpaste, Vaughn's is not only going to use that to send her coupons for that toothpaste, but they're also going to go off, turn around, and sell that data. Now, everyone in the whole world can find out about it if they pay the right amount of money.
And the reason for that is because targeting, right? Because it allows them to know, to link a piece of data, like this phone number that was used to sign up for this rewards account buys this kind of like shampoo or toothbrush or like whatever else. And you can start linking the data to an IP address, which then gives you a geographical area and then maybe a consistent IP address that's like specifically for that user. Like, this stuff all begins to get tied together when someone uses a common detail, like a phone number or an address or something else that gives these people a data point to pivot on and begin to develop a really extensive profile of data, which can be branched out every time you add a new detail.
Yep. And like another good point that the person who wrote this thread, Robert Reeve, I want to give him credit. Part of what is like so insidious because you're not going to want to be, they're not advertising you your grandma's toothpaste necessarily because they think you're going to buy it, but it's just going to like be in the background of your mind. And if like someone, I don't know, you somehow end up in a conversation about toothpaste, you're more likely to mention the brand that was advertised to you than the brand that wasn't advertised to you.
Yeah, so they don't even necessarily care that you're the target. Mm-hmm. You could be in the same room as the target of the person they actually want to buy more toothpaste, and they're using you as a conduit because they're basically, all right, we can't get in touch with this person. Is there anyone nearby? Yeah. So if they can pop up an ad for toothpaste on your phone, it's maybe 25% as good as actually getting the person to see it themselves, but it's better than nothing. Yep. And over time, they will get a reward for doing that.
Yep. And that's why for a lot of reward programs, you don't have to use a real phone number.
And you probably shouldn't. Because, again, every time you add a data point to this mix, your address, your phone number, your purchase histories, you're adding another data point that allows them to track you and develop these incredibly specific profiles. So these profiles are very difficult to shake once they create them because it's more detail than you would typically have about your own kind of daily life. Like the kind of tracking they can do, even including things like wireless devices. It's actually why we have MAC address randomization. Mm-hmm. Is on top of your like loyalty or reward number, they would record your MAC address so they could sell that and basically sell other companies the ability to detect you as you walk up to the store.
Yep. And if you use several different Google accounts to generate different Google Voice accounts, then you can use those different phone numbers for different stores. Because, sometimes the ideal case is you don't participate in these reward programs. But if you're poor and you need like the $10 off of your groceries, then there's ways to try to circumvent tracking like this.
Google Voice is a good alternative. And then also, if you really care about privacy, you can invest a little bit of money in something like Burner. Mm-hmm. I mean, that little bit of a trade-off, like to be able to put up and then tear down a cell phone number when you're signing up for a loyalty program or something like that, maybe it saves you a little bit, and then over time it offsets the amount that you need to spend on maintaining anonymous numbers. Yes. I mean, frankly, it's just kind of one of those decisions you'll need to make for yourself how serious you are about it. But I would say, like, I never give my phone number to like loyalty numbers to loyalty programs anymore, but I also have several loyalty programs that I already have a number in there and I use all the time. That being said, they belong to other people. So, or at least they have different phone numbers, names, whatever else on them. You know, you can just put like random numbers in, like eventually just find one that works and just keep going with it. And that person gets a ton of points. So it's great for everyone. So, you know, there's ways around it. Some of them more punk than others. You can just go through the phone book and try people and see if you get one. Or, of course, you can just, like kind of come up with your own burner number and tear it down when you don't want anything to link back to it anymore. I've used burner before. It's cool. I just like probably wouldn't pay to do it constantly because they don't have the need for it. And again, Google Voice is a perfectly good alternative, although they've been kind of cracking down on registration and making it a bit harder to do lately.
Yeah, I think you can only register like one Google Voice number per account. So you'll have to have like several Google accounts.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's some other restrictions where they require you to verify the number with like a landline or a cell phone that's never been registered on any Google Voice number before. So you basically have a finite number of real like cell phone numbers you can use to register these with, because as soon as you use like your cell phone and then any available landline, you're looking at like campus emergency phones or like elevator phones if you want to like keep registering like random.
That's true.
Because you can't do them with virtual numbers. Like it'll automatically detect if it's a virtual number, so it'll disqualify like burner numbers, for example, from registering a Google Voice account or something like that. So it's kind of interesting like how it's a cat and mouse game for creating anonymous numbers, because we don't want to give our information and people want to know who we are. And between that push and pull, like there's some degree of anonymity you can achieve. But yeah, this was there any other details about this that, I remember it was pretty startling in general.
Yeah, no, like the key thing I really take from this, and something I have to remind myself, and I think a lot of people forget, is like companies don't want this data just for themselves. They can sell it on the market. Like they have access to not only the data they've collected from you, but like every other tech company has collected from you. And that's what's the really scary part, is that one data source, it's not that scary, but once they're able to combine it all together and connect it with each other, that's where it gets a little dystopian and makes me a little uncomfortable.
Okay, so let's go over to Mayfred. This was actually retweeted by Distributed Denial Secrets themselves. Are you aware of Distributed Denial Secrets?
No.
Okay, so there are a lot of hacktivist groups, some of them more effective than others, and the one that's been making the most news lately has been Distributed Denial Secrets, because they've been leaking a lot of the breaches that are, let's say, maybe a little bit more politically or activist motivated. So these are breaches for organizations like the military in Myanmar, where they're specifically kind of targeted because they provide some leverage to people who are perceived to be, in a struggle. So this is an interesting point for anybody who wants to keep their eye on hacktivism in general. Like this is something that, Anonymous is probably one of the best known hacktivist groups, but they're also very chaotic and I would argue not always very effective. This is not the case with Distributed Denial of Secrets. Unlike some of the previous organizations that have been more, I don't know, I guess I would say maybe not as impartial in some ways with the way that they leak things. I'm kind of looking at like WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
This is an organization that has some roots, not exactly with Anonymous, but more in the hacker community, for people who are trying to expose companies that are doing shady stuff that the public would be interested in knowing in. And these are not ransomware attacks where they're motivated for money. They're often motivated by exposure and being able to get documents that are from these companies that are doing something shady out and creating a public debate. Now, whether or not that is a good thing obviously depends on whether or not you are a, letter of the law person. But it is worth checking out this article on what this organization is doing and why they've been in the news. It says it adds twist to cybersecurity woes. That's accurate. Like the thing is like, this organization is problematic in that if you have poor cybersecurity practices and are on the wrong side of their ideals, they will probably leak your data. But they are also not actors that are going around like ransomwaring people and trying to shut down businesses or destroy organizations. So like where they fall on the spectrum, again, it is kind of unique because you mostly see these like advanced persistent threat groups that are capable but politically motivated. Seeing like organizations that are more just hacktivist organizations that aren't as financially motivated, that aren't as politically aligned, is always interesting, and keeping an eye on them is definitely worth doing. Let's see. All right, so moving on over, in this very room, we filmed our very first episode with Alex Lin.
Yeah.
Somebody that we're trying, actually he's been on the show before. We're trying to get him started on his first Hackbite episode on Hack 5, and he got to show off a really interesting tool called the ESP Bug. So the ESP Bug is a little device based on the ESP8266 that will sit in a concealed space, like maybe like a charger or something like that, and report back to a hacker as to who is in the room based on cell phone signal, or well, I guess Wi-Fi cell phone signals. So it's designed to be able to tell when like a specific person comes into the room, comes home, connects to Wi-Fi, and send the information over a server so that a hacker located virtually anywhere can sit there and see the signal strength of any device that is in range of the ESP bug. And of course, you can add known devices. So if you figure out what someone's phone's MAC address is, you can go ahead and add that to the ESP bug and basically monitor any time they brought their phone near this bug. So it's a really interesting way of using like a surveillance camera with no eyes. It basically is just doing signals intelligence in order to identify when a particular device is in range, which is frankly a really cool way of using this little bug, because it means that provided you have an internet connection, maybe you've hacked the victim's access point or that of their neighbor, you can connect this thing to a data source and it will autonomously report back. And you can even, have it log the information so you can see when this device has left and come back and compare it against other information. So this is just a really cool project because the ESP module, have you seen the actual ESP module that it's made on?
Yeah.
It's literally like this. It's the size
It's scary tiny.
It's the size of a postage stamp. And the way that this was done in an implant, I actually have, I think over here, let me find it. But the ESP bug as an implant is so incredibly tiny.
Yeah, and stuff like this is just going to keep getting smaller.
Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. So this is a charger, and it's just been stuck in here with a voltage divider, and it will basically just run and continuously report back, provided it's able to connect to its data source. Now, of course, you can also add an SD card, or you can connect to it with an access point and provide it data that way, or just connect to it locally that way. But frankly, like having it connect over a Wi-Fi network is a much more elegant approach and allows you to just kick back and wait for it to monitor, whoever comes and goes. So there's a couple different ways that this might not work. One of them is if there's MAC address randomization. There's a couple different ways this happens. But the workaround is if your target is connecting to Wi-Fi in the area, they will virtually always drop the random MAC address and assume usually the same MAC address when they connect to the Wi-Fi network. So this kind of defeats the purpose of MAC address randomization and allows you to still identify people who might be using a more modern phone that will typically randomize its MAC address.
Yeah, I know my phone does it by default.
Mm-hmm. One thing to note, though, is a lot of these devices will use a per network randomized MAC address. So they'll use the same random MAC address for each network.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they do that is if there's a MAC address whitelist, it will prevent you from being kicked off the network by just every single time having a different random MAC address. For example, Windows devices will just pick a random wireless network address when they connect to a Wi-Fi network the first time, save it, and then assume that MAC address every single time they connect to that same network. Which, if you have an ESP bug nearby, means that you can identify them reliably every time. So there's ways around MAC address randomization. Really, it's still kind of new because there are ways to defeat it that are so easy that they can kind of be automated at this point. So yeah, it's really, really easy to use a device like this to be able to spy on people. And this is also a relatively passive device, except when it's broadcasting information. So you would have to wait until this is broadcasting in order to identify it. If someone was just saving to an SD card, then you would have no way of knowing that this device was operating if it was just sitting there and sniffing and recording the information to be retrieved later. So super interesting tool. You can check out that stream if you want to learn more about it. I think Alex really did an amazing job with developing this. And frankly, he also came up with the board, a PCB. You can solder it all together with the screen and use the Probe Hunter, which is a related project, and basically be able to hunt down devices. So you might be able to find a device like this that was hidden by using this other project he's built using very, very similar parts. So yeah, we had a lot of fun doing this, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more based on the project he's created soon, because it's just amazing to have someone who's creating InfoSec tools in their spare time. It's just kind of a treat. So, all right, you got another one?
No. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, I've got plenty. So I like to point out good resources, and one of them is, I'm kind of proud of this one. A while ago, my boss was like, "Hey, there's this guy. He's absolutely great He makes these awesome tutorials. I wish we could get someone like him. Like maybe you could talk to him, and it's just like, yeah, this guy's awesome. Like I've watched his stuff before. I reached out to him, and he actually ended up joining Varonis as a content creator. And he has made a new blog, How to Analyze Malware with X64DBG. This is part 4 of a malware reversing guide that Neil Fox has created. Oh, I've actually never seen a picture of Neil. Oh my god, now I have. Hi, Neil. But yeah, so he joined Varonis, has been creating some amazing, really, really popular resources for people who are interested in reverse engineering. Our friend Marcus Hutchkins has also been producing some really good guides on using both Ghidra and I think IDA Pro, or like maybe just regular IDA, I don't know, on reversing like something that you write yourself. So how to basically reverse a C program that you write yourself and compile. And it's surprisingly not straightforward. So if you're looking to get like started on reversing, you can find out like all the steps you have to do to find like the entry point of the program, like even when you know exactly what the program does and you are the author. It's a great way to understand what it takes to figure out another person's program. Because if you can't figure out your own C program that you wrote, then you're going to have a pretty difficult time reverse engineering malware, I would say. So check it out. All of Neil Fox's stuff is great, but in particular, I've heard really good feedback about this series of courses. You can find it on the Varonis blog, and you can also look up Neil Fox as a content creator, and I believe you'll find all of his stuff on varonis.com/blog/author/Neil-Fox. So yeah, thank you, Neil, for creating these. I really, really like that we're working together to create more free content for people who want to get into cybersecurity because, hey, I don't do reverse engineering and I wouldn't know how to make a course like this. So I'm glad we brought some new people on board. And Nick, have you written a thing for Varonis?
Yeah, I have. I don't think it's been published yet, but I was doing some, I was doing the Android reverse engineering live streams. That was like 2 months ago now. Yeah. So
a
bunch of reverse engineering content up in here.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have some stuff on like Android as well, which is something that we haven't really covered very much of Varonis. So that's very exciting. All right, so now let's go through.
I guess I could take this one.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I forgot I was going to talk about this. About that there is a flaw, like a 0-day that has been found in the Bluetooth protocol. Luckily, the newest versions of Bluetooth are like safe to it, but you can basically do a man-in-the-middle attack using Bluetooth signals, which for how widespread Bluetooth is, that's pretty scary. So like I said, it's mostly for newer or older Bluetooth protocols. But I just thought this was funny. The Bluetooth Special Interest Group issued a security notice. So basically, just make sure your Bluetooth is up to date because if it's not, you could get duped.
Oh no! All right, so I've got some more tools. These are tools that I have to give a caution. I have not tried them yet. These are on my list of things to consider for like Hackbite episodes or to otherwise feature on Security Forward. So if you want to check them out, they have all the signs of potentially a good program, like a bunch of stars on GitHub and recent updates. I also like to look for good documentation. This one seems fine, but this is basically a multi-platform toolkit for an interactive C2C DNS shell. By using DNS Block Hat, you'll be able to execute system commands in shell mode over a fully encrypted covert channel. What does that mean, Nick?
I'm not sure.
What does this do?
DNS shell, I'm not sure.
So what this is supposed to do is allow you to start a server on your computer, and then server on your computer, and then a client on some computer you want to attack, or maybe the reverse, depending on what the architecture is, and basically create a connection over DNS that's encrypted. Mm-hmm. So you can have direct control over executing commands and then seeing the result from a remote device, which is something.
DNS, that's really weird.
Yeah, which is something we might detect with this.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
full circle.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, also I imagine that something like that would also trigger like some of my Patrick Wardle written macOS security stuff. But yeah, in general,
would it just be making requests to like some random IP address,
some random subdomain. So it would be like some No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be an IP address. It would be like a subdomain with a really long like prefix or something that would just look totally random. But it would just be
just like a unique key that what was it? Or DNS cat? What was it called?
DNS cat. Yeah.
Yeah, the DNS cat would generate.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, so it would like create. You would exchange a key or a hash or something, and then start communicating between it, and it would just look totally random on here, and it would be very confusing.
Well, and then like you would just see that like this is a weird domain, but if you you would know nothing about that domain.
Exactly.
There's
You'd have to go to like
yeah.
VirusTotal or like check it out or something to know if anything was wrong.
I mean, would VirusTotal even know that? Or because they
Not-
can see some of the subdomains and be like, oh, this is associated with DNS Cat.
Yeah, well, if it was a known bad domain, then it would. If it was not known to be malicious, then you would have no idea.
Mhm.
You know. All right, so this is something you can check out. Have I tried it? No. Do I tend to try it? Yes. It seems pretty useful, and DNS-based exfiltration and command and control is really hot right now. So if you want to check it out, again, I really like Python-based things. I really like things with good documentation, and this seems to tick the boxes. So if you want to check it out, oh, look, it even has a wiki. Hope it doesn't have a 0 day on it. Because I've never heard of this. Okay, yeah, so here we go. It has documentation. It has animated documentation.
Wow.
How fancy. So yeah, like this is a project worth checking out if you're looking for some cool DNS exfiltration stuff. Next up, CI locks. What is this? What is this, Nick?
CI logs. And this is
Guess.
the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, guess.
CI. Well, CI, I don't know. Command interface?
Yeah, let's try it. So it is to brute force Android screens.
That's
it.
an interface.
Yeah,
Android
yeah.
screens are an interface that
Yeah.
you command things with.
Yeah, so this...
I think I got it.
Yeah, so this is basically attempting to bypass the lock screen or brute force pins on Android devices. You can see a potato quality video in a dark room shot in vertical format here, showing us exactly how it works with a absolutely shattered screen and an anime background.
An anime girl.
So you know it's good. But you can see this is making an attempt to like brute force a pin. I think this is for older Android devices that lack rate limiting and some other stuff because frankly I think this would absolutely bug out my Pixel and make it so it won't.
It would
like,
hate it.
Yeah, it would like
hate it and
immediately
just
lock
shut
itself down
down.
and be like, "You're an idiot. You're not allowed to connect to this. You need to leave." So does this work? Probably against older devices. Have I tested it? No. I can see that it has 96 stars, which is impressive, and it was updated on May 3rd, so that seems pretty recent. Oh no, actually May 27th, very recent. So it is the 27th. It was updated today.
I mean, it's probably like a lot of these Android things they're like nice proofs of concept, but very rarely work in the real world because
they rely on like a specific model of device or something like that.
And
Yeah,
like-
so I'm a little reticent to test this because I've been hurt so many times in the past with these like Android brute forcing things. Senpai at TeagleSec. I love it. I'm sorry, and like the cutie background. But yeah, if somebody wants to try this out and report to me, please send me a video that's shot horizontally with a screen that is not shattered, and I would love to check this out. Oh look, okay, maybe they did it. Oh, they use OBS. Why am I talking so much smack? I'll have to come back. I love your lowly background. It's great. But anyway, you can see it's doing some DNS stuff. Some things are happening.
They're really committed to this like aesthetic. They have.
Oh my god.
The keyboard too.
Yeah. What a bunch of cuties. Okay.
I like it.
Well, thank you for this. If you want to check it out, it seems like this is, if you're an anime fan, you can support a fellow anime fan with CI locks. Again, this may work on older Android devices. The documentation isn't very specific. It's not very specific and it's not very explicit. But what are you gonna do? So, project worth checking out. Will I check it out? Perhaps, but it did catch my interest, and again, it passes the smell check. So, what about this one? What do you think this one does? Duplicate.
Duplicate.
Yeah.
It's probably duplicating something,
Okay.
and then I think the cut is just to make it sound edgier.
Okay. All right.
So
all right.
I don't think the cut.
I really
is
like
relevant.
this game, by the way.
Yeah.
Just seeing how good your marketing is for the name you created for your hacker
It's gonna
tool.
sniff something and duplicate it and create a copy on your computer.
Okay.
And the cut is just for marketing.
All right. Very close. What if I added this?
The scissors.
Yeah.
But I still just think that's marketing. I don't think of that as much. It
Okay.
doesn't change it for me.
So it takes huge word lists and it removes duplicates without sorting it.
This is really okay. It takes. So it sorts it, removes duplicates.
No, it doesn't sort it.
It doesn't sort it.
It doesn't
It just
sort it.
removes the duplicates.
Yes.
Okay. That's
Yeah. So let's
Cool.
you like combine a bunch of pre-optimized word lists that are like based on most likely to least likely, and then go through and without reorganizing them to do a sort, which usually is the way that it would basically most programs would do a
Okay.
sort of some kind and
Sort and
reorganize
then-
everything and
okay.
destroy the order it was in order to find and remove
I see.
duplicates. So what this is supposed to do is basically look through the whole thing while preserving the original order and remove any duplicates without messing that up.
what use cases would like preserving the order be that important in though? In case you're
pretty
putting
much
like the
exactly
most,
what I just said. Like
if you're putting like the most likely, I'm just trying to think that like
Yeah.
the most likely password you want on top or something like that.
Yeah, so like what you would start with is a probability map, where basically you would start with the most likely, most common passwords and expand
Got it.
into the least likely or most random
Okay.
passwords. So that way
Okay.
you're being efficient with your processing power. So if you like rejiggered it and like suddenly made like some random password that would be like the last password they would ever pick, the first one,
Mhm.
you're just going to be burning unnecessary processing power, reducing the actual probability of you hitting on that early.
Sorry, my computer decided to update right now, so I have to look over at your screen.
Oh yeah, no,
But
that's great.
no, I want to dig into the source code. What is this written in?
This
Python?
is, I hope it's written in Python because...
No, that sounds like something better for C. Yeah, C++.
Oh, it's C++. Okay,
yeah.
I was wrong.
Or C.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, just C?
Yeah.
Brave soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, low level. Yeah, that's cool. But I really like it's designed for really, really, really big wordless, including ones that exceed the available RAM. That I think is great because I will often use like wordless with like a billion passwords in it, and if like 25% of them are recycled, or if it's wordless that have been mashed together and like not checked for duplicates, that can really just you're just wasting electricity and you're wasting time. So this seems like an awesome tool. Like it's very straightforward and like well thought out. I like tools that have like a specific problem that they're solving. Like DNS Twist is another example. Have you seen that tool?
I think we talked about that on the old live stream.
Yeah, it's like it's specifically for finding people that have registered domains that are similar to a target domain in an effort to
I love
either
that one.
like trick people who make a typo or otherwise just like domain squat. So it's such a specific tool. It does one thing. It's really good at it. Brings back a ton of information. I feel like this is kind of like along the same vein. It's just specifically for this one thing, and it's well thought out and well documented.
And this is like totally something that could be like swallowed up by like Jack the Ripper or something, and like incorporated into that. So this would be like a nice addition to a couple other projects.
Yeah, I also like you can see like these are the previous ways of doing it. You could do sort-u wordless.text sucks or awk and then whatever wordless.text sucks. And then like you can see probabilistic ordering loss. That's what I mentioned.
Yep,
So,
yep.
but then this won't work if the wordless size exceeds the available memory. So like these are two disadvantages to the existing ways of doing this. I just think it's nice that the hacker community is creating things that like solve a problem that people who do this a lot are probably experiencing sometimes. So if you do work with large wordless, check it out. It's a good tool, or at least it seems that way. I cannot tell you it won't just blue screen your computer because I have not installed it myself. And I think one of the last, second to last ones we have is Pawn Linux.
Okay, Pawn Linux.
Pawn Linux.
I'm guessing this is just like a collection of different Linux exploits.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is an advanced multi-threaded, multi-client Python reverse shell for hacking Linux systems. So yeah, basically, it's a framework for hacking a Linux system.
So I'm like 1.5 or 3.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well, honestly. So you can see there's some good basic documentation, which is what I like to see here. You can also see they've got some good screenshots showing you step by step. It's non-animated, but that's okay. Maybe it would be if I allowed them to run JavaScript, but I won't. And you can also see 105 stars. It was updated in February 24th of 2021. So I would say this is an active project that's worth paying attention to. Again, I have not tried this myself because it's something I'm thinking about featuring on a future stream, but it seemed definitely worth checking out if you're into systems specifically designed for hacking Linux.
Does it say if it's for like certain distributions or anything, or it's just like generic? Because I've worked.
It says it can only be used for lawful purposes.
So not Arch.
No. Yeah. So no, it doesn't. It doesn't seem to say that specifically. There's also like a random Gmail account listed as the contact for it. So what are you gonna do? Oh yeah, and the last one, or was that the last one? That's DNS Peep. Oh, Open Wi-Fi Pass. So you have an iPhone, right?
No.
Oh, that's weird. You just seem like an iPhone person.
Wow, that's very offensive.
Yeah. Well, apparently there's a standard called Open Wi-Fi Pass, which allows you to share credentials, kind of like over Bluetooth to an iPhone. Well, apparently you can just actually do that on a Raspberry Pi and create your own implementation of this that doesn't authenticate who's sending you the Wi-Fi credentials. So if you wanted to do a phishing attack, this is the first step of building a chain against like an iOS user where you might phish them into joining a malicious network or something like that. You might even phish them into joining a hidden network, which then basically tags them and makes it so that they're always broadcasting that network SSID over and over again, which is really funny. I love doing that. We did that for QR codes where we like secretly made the network hidden, and then anybody that scanned the QR code basically was broadcasting the name of that network forever until they removed it from their device, which, I mean, defeats the purpose of MAC address randomization and makes it really easy to know when they're nearby.
Yep. Just make it constantly screaming something you can recognize.
Cool. So all right, I've got another. How's your computer doing?
It's
Oh, good.
it's
Still
dead. I have my iPad so I can look at articles. So
That's all right. That's all right. So this is one sent in by Zam. Thank you very much, Zam. Hopefully we'll be able to see you later. This is the result of someone making it so we have to have rules. So now the DHS is going to issue mandatory cybersecurity rules for pipeline companies. Did you know that there weren't mandatory rules for pipeline companies?
well, I didn't even care about like the cybersecurity rules for pipeline companies till like 2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah,
so,
until you can't buy gas.
yeah.
So you know, every once in a while someone messes up so bad that we now have to have a new rule, and that seems to be the case to prevent another issue like what we've had with the pipeline. We can at least expect now to be frustrated that they didn't follow the rules and not that there were no rules. So, you know, based on what we've heard about the Colonial Pipeline hack, like there were some issues there. So hopefully in the future there will be the expectation that some of the basic rules of cybersecurity are followed for critical infrastructure, because apparently gas is critical infrastructure.
Wow.
Yeah. Who knew? Yeah. All right. So, did you already talk about the Bluetooth vulnerabilities?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, fine.
Did
you mention that they allow you to create a man-in-the-middle situation? Well, fine, Nick. Let's move on. All right. So we also have a flash alert from the FBI that's warning about the Conti ransomware that has gone after 16 different healthcare and emergency service organizations in the U.S. This is definitely worth keeping an eye on if you're in healthcare or if you care particularly about what ransomware has been targeting lately. But yeah, FBI flash alerts are generally not good. It means you should pay attention. And I think actually that's the last story we have today. It seems like Fernando has some business to attend to, so we might have to make sure that we support him on that, because he's done such a good job of co-hosting the show today. And again, if anybody feels like adopting Fernando, he's available at the Glendale Small Animal Hospital. You can ask for him. He's absolutely the sweetest cat ever. But yeah, so that's all we have, I think, for this episode of Hacking with Friends. If you have any other topics you think we should have covered, make sure to drop them in the either in the chat or the comments on the YouTube channel. You can find this and other episodes on Security Forward on YouTube. That's Security FWD. And you can also go to hackingwithfriends.com if you want to see all the episodes. Make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Nick.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.